Does it bother you that there's so many lost people that if something were to happen and 90% of the people around you would die and go to hell? I'll be honest, most of the time it does not affect me. I can go through life with my own concerns, and unless I understand the Father's heart and really keep around people who are reminding me of the Father's heart, and I remember that it's not about ministry. I used to think it was all about ministry. What ministry can I be a part of? But I began to realize it's about multiplication. Let me put it this way. Barbara, when she has birthdays and anniversaries, there's one place she likes to go in Raleigh. It's called Angus Barn. Have any of y'all heard of it? You know, presidents have eaten there. Really. I mean, they go there. They eat there. I mean, it's a famous place all over the world. Really, people who like good steaks know about Angus Barn. I know that about Barbara. But wonder if I think her birthday's coming up. Let's go to McDonald's. What would that communicate about my love and devotion for Barbara? Be honest.
Not very devoted. Not very devoted.
Not very devoted. She's okay. She's put up with me for almost 42 years. That's pretty nice. But is it 42? I think. No, I mean, this is, how many of you know that Toby Keith song, Let's Talk About Me? Anybody not know it? Let me ask, do you not know it? Oh my gosh. I know it's an old song, but the first time I heard that song, I was furious. I thought, that is such a selfish song. You know, he's talking about he wants the conversation to be about him. And then I think God's Spirit just kind of nailed me. And he said, Berk, you only want to talk about you. I want you to talk about me, about me being number one. What I want, what I dream about. And I just realized, oh, that's a whole different song. I mean, if you change the words, it's a great worship song. Because God sometimes, He listens to us talking about our work and our this, our that. And He says, when are you going to talk about me? And what I want in my heart. And this has got to be this summer, this month, to be able to say, Lord, whatever it takes, shift me from just being busy about some Christian work and understand your heart. That you want all people, not just a few. You don't want just my neighbors, but you want the nations. And I want to be a part of seeing the nations. And I want to not just hope it's going to happen, but I want to see a contagion of disciples made. I mean, it just challenges me to think that. And am I thinking that? Am I not just thinking about, hey, I can share the gospel, I can disciple, but how am I helping others? You know, this is the neatest thing that when I began, I'm going to go over some things about Jesus' plan. In fact, let me ask you this. Has anybody ever memorized 1 John 2, verse 6? Please memorize that. And depending on, I like the New American Standard. It says, anyone who says they abide in Him ought to walk in the same manner as Him. Think about that. Our goal is to abide. And if we say we abide in Jesus Christ, then we ought to walk in the same manner as He did. Now, just in case you don't know what I didn't know what the definition of manner, so I looked it up. A mode of procedure or a way of acting, method of artistic execution. Do we think about that? Like, the best multiplier that has ever walked on this earth is Jesus. And how much do we really study his manner? His procedure? What did he do? How did he do it? This is the thing. That's an awful heart. Honey, can you come up here and draw for me?
That's a heart that's went to McDonald's too many times.
Well, no. Can you just put a nice heart on this side? All right, you can do better than me, I know. But if we're really understanding God's heart is for the nations, and how are we contributing ourselves? How are we? See, the issue is quit asking the question, "What is God's will for my life?" Quit asking that. Drop those last few words and just say, "What is God's will? What does God want? And how am I going to be in harmony with that and work with others to actually see that happen?" Do we look at Acts 19, and do we even think that's possible today? That in 2 years, 8 to 15 million people could hear the gospel? It only would happen if we understand how to multiply. And again, there's one thing about teaching, the whole thing about, when you hear the word teaching, what comes to your mind? School, classroom. A lecturer, like what I'm doing right now.
Students.
What?
Students.
Yeah.
Calculus.
Okay. When you hear the word training, what is that? What comes to your mind?
An athlete.
What?
An athlete.
An athlete. What do you mean by that?
Someone who trains for a marathon, practice months beforehand.
Repetition. Lloyd, he just got saved, and I went over how to start sharing with his friends, and he was a little awkward. But I also knew he played soccer. I said, "Lloyd, let me ask you this." He's a forward. I said, how long did it take you to kick a corner kick where it bananaed into the goal? He said, "Well, it took a while." He said, "But why did you keep at it?" Because that's what I wanted. And he kept practicing until the ball consistently started going banana. Thank you. Curving. Thank you. That's a better word. Curving from the corner into the goal. And he's pretty good at it. And I said, "Lloyd, for you to make disciples that impact nations, you're going to have to do some awkward things at first. You're going to have to. But anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first." Some of you might think, "Well, we're going to go over some tools in 5 key arenas." And you say, "I don't need tools. I'm just going to claim Mark 13, that if the Holy Spirit's going to give me the right words to say." Jesus gave that instruction in the end times and also gave it to men he had trained already for several years. See, if you and I don't value tools, what does that communicate?
Pride. Laziness.
Pride, but maybe I don't get that harsh yet.
Well, you work with tools that you don't like working.
Yeah, yeah, you don't like working, but you don't
Want to accomplish.
You don't want to accomplish anything. If you don't want to use tools, that means you don't want to build anything. Think about that. God is a master builder, and He has invited us to build His kingdom. And it will require some tools. And some tools that maybe at first we're not too comfortable with. But again, when we embrace that, I mean, we skipped over a verse, but like in Exodus 19, when it talked about God wanted the nation of Israel to be His priests. In Exodus 20, when God reveals Himself, the people did what?
We're scared.
They were scared and they shrunk back. But Moses stepped forward. If we are embracing our identity, we will not shrink back. We will step forward. And we will pay attention to the manner. Others, I'm not saying they're in sin. Others may not follow Jesus' pattern in this manner. But if Jesus is the best multiplier that has ever walked on this earth, and we want to abide in Him, according to 1 John 2:6, we ought to walk in the same manner as Him. We better pay attention. And I want us to pay attention. You know, how many of y'all have heard the phrase 4 fields, 5 parts? Anyway, maybe the other way. Who's not heard about that? Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a phrase that basically a Christian in India came up with. And he started seeing a pattern of what Jesus did. I want you to turn at your tables. I want you to look at Matthew 9. And I want us to look at Matthew 9, 35 through 10:1. And I just want you to write down, what do you see Jesus doing? Particularly pay attention to the verbs. And honey, I'm going to need you to come back up here to do some more writing, because I will just get crazy here. Not yet. Yeah. So again, let's take 3 minutes. Look at the verbs. What did Jesus do? And I'm just going to give you. Oh, that's not my phone. That's the phone recording. Yeah. All right. Okay. At your tables, what do you see Jesus doing? All right. And I'll pull you back together in about 2-3 minutes. All right. Okay. All right. Let's quick. Wait. What did y'all? One thing. What did Jesus do?
Well, he went.
All right. He went. All right. Next table. What is another thing you saw Jesus do?
Teaching.
Talk. Yeah. Teach. Teaching. All right. Juan, what's y'all's table do?
Proclaim the gospel.
He proclaimed. All right. Rich, y'all's table.
Healing.
Healing. Jake, you with them? Okay, so Justin, what's y'all's table? Okay, next table. Avery, what y'all's table?
Felt compassion. He equipped
Felt compassion. I got to ask this question. Now, no, that's all right. This is fine right now. Not yet. I'll see you in a minute. Do you notice even Jesus? He went out. He didn't say he felt compassion and went out, but he went out and felt compassion. Think about that. There are going to be times this summer you're not going to feel like going out. I guarantee you. I guarantee it. You're not going to feel it. And you're going to say, Berk, Matt, Justin, somebody, I just need a little more extra time with Jesus to feel good. Okay. Gosh, you know where my heart is. Oh, man. I am not very merciful. I am not. But Matt's going to talk with me later. But, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I don't feel it until I get out there. There was a young girl, Marcy. She'd never kind of done a lot of what we were doing. Most of it, she was building friendship, doing like that. You don't really have you got a month to kind of find people of peace. And so she said, I want to learn how to do that. We went out for 1 hour, and we ran into atheist after atheist after atheist. Really. Nobody wanted to talk. And her hour was up, and so I pulled her aside, and before I got it out of my mouth, how you feel? She's bawling. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she'll never do this again. And she said, I had no idea people were this lost. And it just kicked her in the gear. So, all right, that was a little side trip. Okay, what's another thing? What did Jesus do?
Oh,
Sorry, all right, next table. I'll come back.
pray.
He prayed. Did he pray?
Well, he told me.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So now he's recruiting to pray. In other words, he's casting vision, right? Because, all right, what else?
He trained his disciples.
How do you get that?
When he called his 12 disciples to.
Are you called? Let's just stop that. I'm not looking for elaboration. I'm just look at the verbs. So he called, and he called them to be, okay. What's another thing he did? Gave authority. Anything else you see?
To heal the sick.
Gave authority, to heal the sick.
Sent them out.
And he sent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Honey, this is where I might need you. But I can do this part.
Good job.
Is that good?
Yeah.
All right.
O'clock. Pretty
And I'm even going to do this part. All right? And I can do that. Basically, the whole thought is, I'm going to get you up here. Go. If you see that Jesus goes, he gospels pretty quickly. He gossiped the gospel pretty quickly. He used the gospel to filter who he would help grow. All right? And then he gathered, all guided by the Spirit, because it kept going. Now, you'll see what I'm going to do in this.
What?
You'll see what I'm going to do in this. All right. This is what I need you right here.
Are you sure?
Yeah. All right, above the line. All right, this is the 5G network. Yeah, about the whole understanding of the 5 aspects of disciple making, of multiplying.
5G.
Because he goes, Matthew 9:35. He went, that's a verb for go. So he went through all the villages and towns. Right here, Matthew 9:35.
Right here.
Yeah. So he went through all the towns. And he's preaching the good news of the kingdom. Matthew 9:35. And he's healing because the gospel, and with deeds. There's a time I was out with Justin, not this Justin, another Justin, and we were sharing the gospel. This guy seemed somewhat receptive. His washing machine broke, and he didn't have clothes to wear to work. So we grabbed all of his clothes. He really had to trust us, because we grabbed them all. And we took them to our house and washed them, brought them back. So it's the gospel, but it's not just, notice, it's the gospel first, proclaiming the gospel and under the gospel, preaching the good news. And preaching is this word. It's not like saying, Bryson, if you've got some time, would you like to listen to something that's really important to me? That's not preaching. Preaching is, Bryson, let me tell you something that's really important. You see the difference? And so preaching is a proclamation. And so to be able to say, as he was going to all the villages, he was preaching. He was not kind of setting up shop and things like that, but he was preaching. And he was healing. Because deeds are important too. And then, then the growing part, he was teaching, but he was vision casting. He was recruiting to prayer. He was calling them up. This is something that you'll see that in a lot of times when people first get saved, there is an immediate vision cast. That the Holy Spirit is not just for you and your family, but for those far off. So Zacchaeus, salvation has come to your household, not just to you. So that's kind of even part of the gospel presentation if you see in the Gospels. But so in Matthew 9:35 and then 37, the vision, he's casting vision and he's teaching them about what to pray for. Verse 38, pray for laborers. Please, with your phones, set the alarm. Now, we go with Luke 10. Is it 9:38? Okay. I didn't think, man, I'm going that long. But the similar parallel passage, Luke 10:2. Beseech the Lord of the harvest. Beseech the Lord of the harvest. If we are understanding God's heart, even if we were praying, the very first thing, Matthew 6:9, it talks about our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come here on earth. Not just in my heart. It's got to start in my heart, but we're thinking big picture. Because God's thinking big picture. And we're a part of that. And we don't want to shrink back. We want to embrace that. And so, understand that we're going to cast vision. And he's going to call verse 10:1, Matthew 10:1, which says, Jesus summoned them or called them, the 12, and he gave them authority. So he summoned or called and he gave authority. And that's part of the giving here, of giving authority to exercise. Not exercise walking out, but cast out demons, and impure spirits. This was Jesus' manner, was it not? He just didn't do it once or twice. It was something he did regularly. And not only that, I want you at your tables to read Matthew 10:5 through 11. And I want you to compare and contrast. What do you see similar? What were his followers doing? I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. All right. Let's think through this. Jesus, the perfect shepherd. You can't out-shepherd the shepherd, right? And he has already modeled going, preaching a lot, seeing who responds, gathering them, and then he kind of a little interesting, like, I'm calling you, but I'm sending you. But what's he sending to do? What does verse 6 say? What did the disciples do? Those who had been trained by him. What does verse 6 say?
They went to Israel.
They went to Israel. Or go. What translation do you read?
Training.
They received the training, the teaching, the vision cast, the prayer. What you have received, freely give. So you might say I'm stretching it, but I'm thinking that's part of growing, helping them grow. Right away, you're letting them know God's heart. You're not waiting like 6 months. You let them know right away God's heart. And then, verse 11. What do you see there?
Stay with the household.
Stay with the household of peace. In other words, gather. Say peace to this house, and that word peace comes from the Hebrew word shalom. May it be to you, Danny, as it is in the kingdom. That's the gospel. He said, when you're pronouncing peace, may it be to you as it is in the kingdom, and people are responding to that, You don't need to just keep going from person to person to person. You stay and you start training them. Now, you don't really see them going out until you get to Acts. And then you start seeing, guess what? And you're going to see it if you've not seen it before. You're going to see that the disciples in Acts followed a very simple pattern too. They had a clear understanding of leadership development from lostness to leader. You know, there was a guy by the name of Andrew, and he received Christ. And I began to, just take some time and vision cast, and, he gave me a list of his friends, and finally his friends started gathering with us. And not only that, we were sitting outside Taco Bell on Hillsborough Street, and we were having a time of just really, opening up about what God was doing. And Mason, his friend, said, "Man, this just feels like what church really should be." He said, "I know I need to start going to a church, but this is what I feel like church should be and do." Friends actually getting together, learning how to love Jesus, love one another, and look for the lost. And it was like when he said that, I was like, whoa. And I started using that more and more, like with Lloyd, with his friends. We're getting together and we're kind of going through this right now. We're moving to this. And we just said, man, this just feels like what church really should be all about at the start. It's a lot more. But do you have a pathway from lostness to leader in a short amount of time? Jesus, he took some really wacko guys, emotionally unstable people, and he helped. They followed him, and then he released them. But he trained them. He trained them so that they would pass that on, and we would be able to see that happen with us. And we're going to be going over different tools in each of, because there's a reason. This is not just a nice drawing. There's a reason there's a line between each of these four fields, kind of even the 5 parts. It's because there are certain barriers. A lot of us we're going to work, we're going to neighborhoods, but there's a barrier. Will I actually bring up the gospel? Do I even have the confidence to bring up the gospel? And then once I do, what do I do next if somebody's responding? But we're going to give you tools to say, yeah, I'll know how to do that. So when they start seeing someone saved, they'll know. It's not going to be complicated. It's the whole KISS, keep it simple, saint. The simpler, the more biblical, and the reproducing is the only way we're going to be able to see 8 billion people hear the gospel. Or let's just get down practical, 105 or maybe just 10,000 in 1 month's time. Wouldn't that be neat? That'd be exciting to say in 1 month's time, we have not only shared the gospel, but the believers or the unbelievers that get saved, they quickly catch God's heart and they learn how to spread it and multiply it. That'd be pretty neat. I mean, I'd like to see 8 to 12 million in 2 years, but maybe 10,000 in 1 month. That's worth praying for and pursuing. But in order to do that, those who abide and bear fruit will be pruned to bear more fruit. John 12:24. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains by itself. But if it dies, it will bear much fruit. I know, we all know the verse about laying our life down for one another. I know very few people who have actually literally put their life on the line for Jesus. I know a lot of people who have had to lay down preferences and their schedule maybe one day we will have to actually take a bullet for Jesus and for another brother or sister. But let's be faithful in learning how to give up some preferences, some things, to be teachable. I mean, I think about even just, Jeremy and I saw someone pray to receive Christ, and I just gave him my phone number, and afterwards Jeremy said, Berk, you should have called him right there and made sure you had his number like that. And you know, the hairs on the back of my neck started to stand up, kind of like, who are you, man? I've been doing this for years. But I died. I had to humble myself and say, you are so right. And you were so right. And I appreciate that you know, you didn't shrink back. But little things are so important. And so as this is kind of an overview of what you're going to learn. You know, you're going to learn the next 3 days the different tools in each of these things. We're going to start with how confident and competent are you here, and then we're going to move into here, and then here and here. And then the next 4 weeks, learning how to roll it out. To where, again, you know, like what was said earlier, when you go back, you will be, where's one? All right? What y'all did after Link last year, you went back to FIU. And you kept practicing this. Anybody not familiar with the movie, the wax on, wax off from Karate Kid?
What?
The wax on, wax off from Karate Kid. Anybody, be honest.
I've never heard of it in my entire life.
Really? All right, I'll pray for you. No, seriously, it's a great scene because it's, you know, the whole, you know, Danielson is wanting to learn karate, and so he comes up to Miyagi and he does the, you know, Miyagi says, here's wax, put the wax on the car and then take it off, and he does that and he paints the fence and all like that, and he's just getting furious. You know, Danielson goes up, he says, what are you, I'm a slave? And so Miyagi just kind of throws a punch at Danielson, does the wax off. He throws another punch, the wax on. And see, that's what the goal of this training is not just so that you learn how to do things an hour a week, but so that you get so used to repetition that it becomes more natural when you're in the grocery store to go with your identity and share the gospel and find if there's somebody responding, and you'll meet back because you'll die to your schedule, and then you'll start gathering with some of their friends and send them out. See, that's the goal. Please don't think the goal is just hey, I want to do a leadership training time. But it's a time to learn the wax on, wax off, so that when you get in the real world, I mean, I look at Barbara. We were flying the other day, flying back from Maryland, and man, she just went right into her testimony, the gospel, found out where the woman was. You know, it was just so natural for her. It's still kind of unnatural for me. I have to gear up for it. I really do. She's kind of a lot further in the training than I am. But please realize, you're going to, in a month, you don't have a network of friends, but you're going to be going, and you're going to be gospeling, and you're going to find people who are responding, and you're going to know exactly what to do next. In month time, you'll learn that, and then you'll learn even how to gather. And then you'll start seeing God raise up Spirit-filled people who will keep doing it until there's no place left. So, that's God's heart. This is Jesus' manner. This was the manner the disciples followed. This was the manner of Acts. And we've gotten away from it. Others may do things differently. That's great. But we are called as priests to embrace our priesthood, to embrace God's heart for the nations. And not just to do ministry, but to be multipliers. Mm-hmm. That's what Link is about. Can I ask you just to turn the person next to you, pray about what you just heard, and ask him to really put this in your heart, and then Justin will come up and close us out.